This is big breaking emergency news. We have multiple states now deploying their National Guard to deal with a major domestic crisis. We also have a major U.S. military base coming under attack just today. A developing situation. Another U.S. military base has come under fire. We also have an update on what the U.S. House of Representatives are doing right now on this major vote they just had on multiple big bills, and how there are hundreds of representatives in the House that are voting against the American people right now on these insane bills, and they're voting against them, right? We're going to cover that. We're going to give you an update of what's going on in the airports, right? And we're also going to talk about these numbers, right? These numbers of the continued, quote, invasion that's happening right now. We're going to cover all this stuff tonight because all these things are related, right? We're on the edge of a major disaster inside of our country right now. We are already in the middle of a slow motion disaster, and things need to turn around quickly. All right, so let's get into this news here of this bill that was voted on by Congress first, and then we will also get into the National Guard being deployed and this U.S. military base that has been hit as well. And we also have our U.S. military now deploying to our airports. Okay, there are now reports from Georgia state senators. All right, this Georgia state senator went to the Atlanta airport. Okay, this was Senator Colton Moore, and he went to the Atlanta airport and he was reporting that there were rooms of, quote, illegal migrants that were in these rooms, and they were being protected and guarded by U.S. military soldiers inside Atlanta International Airport. All right. And he was even telling them, all right, the guard was even telling him that these are, quote, migrants that are here and they are being protected. All right. They are being guarded. And he didn't give much detail, but he said that they're facilitating them to move wherever they need to go. All right. He said that it was very broad on detail, but he said this is happening inside the Atlanta International Airport right now. All right. So what's going on? Were they guarding? Are there a lot of people showing up in these airports that are national security threats, and the U.S. military needs to be there now, all right, to detain and process certain people? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on, because other people are just allowed to get onto the plane and hop on board, all right? Don't even have to show ID or anything. But then there's this, he was saying it's this back room of people, and it's being guarded by a U.S. military service member. Okay, so something is going on inside of our airports right now, or maybe they're just helping the processing and the moving of people. All right, maybe that's what they're doing. All right, but something is going on in our airports, and our airports are a national security risk right now, and they're not safe right now as well. And this is being reported by a Georgia state senator. Something's going on. Something's going on in our airports. They're not safe, and they're not telling us what's happening as well. And things are so bad they have to deploy the military inside the airports now, right? Covertly, not really telling anybody. This was a back area that this senator was investigating because he got a tip that there were people being kept back there. So be cautious and be wary if you are at any of these major airports, especially these international airports where there are a lot of people being processed and moving through them. Especially, you need to be careful, right? You also need to be careful while driving as well, extra careful, because the U.S. House of Representatives just voted on these two bills, all right? And this is the first one where 150 members in the House voted against this bill to deport any, quote, migrants that were caught drunk driving. Okay, so they're voting against to deport anyone caught drunk driving inside the U.S., want them to stay here and continue to do this, okay? And this is serious because people lose family members from this. This ruins entire families when there's a major drunk driving incident like this, right? And this happens all the time. These stories are always popping up, and it's very sad and very tragic. And a lot of times these people have been released multiple times with no consequences and haven't been deported or anything, okay? They also voted 155 members. They voted against a bill to deport criminal, quote, migrants who steal Social Security benefits from American seniors. All right? It's insane. 155 members don't want anyone to be deported if they are a criminal migrant who steals Social Security benefits from American seniors. Right? Absolutely insane. And 155 members of the House don't want this bill to pass. All right? So our country it's hard to tell where it is right now. It's hard to tell where we are going and how much longer our country itself can handle this. And this is part of the reason why we are seeing the National Guard being deployed now, because the situation has gotten very dire and very urgent, right? We now have the Florida Governor DeSantis. He is now deploying the National Guard to the Texas border along with 6 other states, right? So this was just announced today. It says DeSantis said he will be sending members of the Florida National Guard and members of the Florida State Guard to help Texas, quote, in its efforts to stop the invasion at the southern border. The announcement stated that Florida has offered up 1,000 of its National Guard members, quote, based on Texas's needs. Quote, states have every right to defend their sovereignty, and we are pleased to increase our support to Texas as the Lone Star State works to stop the invasion across the border, DeSantis said in a statement. Quote, our reinforcements will help Texas to add additional barriers, including razor wire, along the border. We don't have a country if we don't have a border, right? So that's what DeSantis said just today, and he is sending 1,000 members of the National Guard and Florida State Guard to the Texas border right now, right? So this is going to help Texas immensely, and we also have 6 other states that are now sending hundreds of members of their National Guard as well, right? Arkansas is also sending members. Oklahoma, Nebraska, Virginia, Iowa, and West Virginia are now all sending members of the National Guard, hundreds of members, to the Texas border as well, right? So this situation is not over, right? The Eagle Pass situation is not over with Shelby Park in Texas. They're still having a standoff with the federal authorities, and Texas still has control over Shelby Park and is still shutting down and arresting people for trespassing that enter Shelby Park, which is a Texas state park, which is shut down but right now. So they're getting arrested for trespassing if they enter this location. All right, so this is not over, and this is one small part of the border, and it's overwhelmed. This is why they need more National Guard members to guard other areas and other ports of entry as well. This is only one major port of entry. We also have other major ports throughout Texas and even Arizona and California, like the Lukeville port that was shut down for weeks, and the National Guard had to be deployed they just processed everyone. That's what they did in Arizona. They didn't shut it down to not let them in. They shut it down just to process people and let them in. They shut down the flow, and they shut down traffic crossing into Lukeville, Arizona. All right, and now we have Arizona and California are also getting the brunt of crossings right now, okay? Because there's a lot of attention on Texas right now, and they know that they could be arrested by Texas National Guard and Texas State Guard if they are caught going through Texas. So they are targeting Arizona and California mostly right now. All right. You can see here, just in the last week of January, there were 32,809 illegal crossings. All right. Just in the last week of January, just in 1 week, almost 32,809 people illegally crossed into our country in 1 week. That's bigger than the town that I live near, right? It's bigger than the local town, than multiple local towns that I live near, 32,000 people. I'm not sure how that's where they're supposed to go, where they're supposed to live, where their housing is, where their source of income is. And 95% of these people are military age men, and they're building these major military barracks across the country. We're going to get to an update on that in just a second as well, and show some pictures, some new updated pictures of what they're building in our country. But 71% of that 32,000 went to Arizona and California last week. So it was 23,576 crossings just in Arizona and California, all right? And there was 5,240 crossings just yesterday at the border, right? Illegal crossings, over 5,000 every single day. This is unsustainable, and this is why Florida sent over 1,000 National Guard, and we also have Arkansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Virginia, Iowa, and West Virginia, and we also have South Dakota talking about sending the National Guard soon as well. They actually deployed their National Guard a few years ago down to Texas to help down at the border, but they brought their guard back, and they're talking about deploying more guard members to the border. All right, so you can add South Dakota to that list as well. So this isn't over. The situation isn't over, and let's hope that this is enough pressure for something to change at the border. And no laws even have to be passed or anything. The Biden administration could shut down the border by itself with its own executive action and its own executive orders. The manpower is there, the personnel's there, the funding is there, the money's there. He just needs to direct the executive branch and Border Patrol to actually shut it down and do their job instead of processing these people. And they also need to implement Title 42, which is the Remain in Mexico policy that needs to go back into effect as well, because that's what started all of this, right? That was in place during the Trump administration, where people would have to be processed inside of Mexico to make any kind of claim for asylum, and they would have to show documentation for it as well. And the standard and the bar was high to get asylum. And now they don't have to show any documentation or prove anything, and they're just let in and given a court date for 5 to 10 years. Some people, multiple years in advance, just given a court date to come prove their asylum then. All right. And this is serious for our country, because this is destroying our major cities. Okay. New York City just had a major attack on their police officers. Okay. There was a gang of, quote, migrants that just attacked 2 different police officers in New York City. Okay. And this, I don't want to show anything. There's this video going around showing it. All right. And they're just getting attacked. And these, quote, migrants, they got arrested. Okay. It was like 5 or 6 men. And these cops were on the ground, okay, and getting attacked. And they got arrested, and they were just let out right away with no bail, okay? Cashless bail in New York City. You don't have to pay any money or anything, and just let out right away, okay? And then it's being reported that this group, or at least part of them, actually fled to California, right? They went to California after they were released on bail, on cashless bail. All right, so this is what's happening in our country. It's the breakdown of our society, and it's happening quickly. Okay, and look at these massive tents that are being set up all over New York City and all over our major cities inside of our country. Okay, look at these giant military barrack looking tents. Okay, I've shown the inside of them before, but now we're getting a drone shot of them and how big they actually are. And you can see that all these tents have their own generators. Okay, they're not even hooked up to the power supply for some reason. They all have their own generators. Those big green rectangles are massive diesel generators. And for some reason, they don't want these tents that are being set up for, quote, migrants. They don't want them to be attached to the grid for some reason. Very strange. And even though the grid is right there, and this is in the middle of New York City. Look at the background here. This is in the middle of New York City. This is Randall's Island in New York. It's not New York City, but it's right outside New York City, right near Brooklyn and right near the RFK Bridge. Okay? Right in Randall's Island, New York, right outside of New York City. They're just building this, and an entire children's park was taken over. Okay? So this was a children's soccer field, and like kids need recreation. Kids need to go to the park, especially in New York City. They don't have yards. Everyone's living in apartments or anything. This is a very important place for children to go, and they're just taking it over and building these massive tents that look like temporary military barracks, okay, that they build overseas for our military to stay in. That's what these look like. That's probably what these are. They're probably just using the same ones and the same contractors to build them. And they also have these diesel generators for some reason, because if the power goes out, these will still be on for some reason. These will still be on. Just something to think about, because who gets to go inside of these tents? Who gets to go inside of the hotels? How do they decide? All right. It all doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And it's very suspicious and very strange. And it's a national security threat to our country as well. This is in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the world, major economic zone for our country. And we're just taking over parks and building these massive tents inside of them. Okay? This is unsustainable. This isn't fair. This isn't humanitarian for anybody. It's claimed to be humanitarian aid, but they're squishing thousands of people into these tents with cots, right? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. Why is this being allowed to happen? And also, why are we not building things like this for our veterans and our homeless populations that are U.S. citizens? Okay, my dad was 100% disabled on VA, and it's a struggle to get any type of benefits. And it's even being reported that, quote, migrants are now getting access to the VA hospital and VA healthcare systems, which are already overwhelmed and strained and have long wait times for veterans, and they are now being accessible to even migrants now. This is what's being reported in certain states, and normal citizens can't even get access to these certain hospitals. I can't even go there. And on top of this, we also have been having these domestic situations inside of our country that seem like attacks potentially on our critical infrastructure. All right, we keep seeing things happening inside of Texas, and now we have another situation today as well, where a major refinery, BP refinery, has been taken offline, and there's been emergency evacuations inside of Indiana, right? This just happened today, and the BP refinery had a system-wide power outage, all right? And they're not sure exactly what caused this outage, and it caused evacuations because they had to burn off all the gas from the pipelines. This could have potentially been a cyber attack on this BP refinery to knock the power out and to take its systems offline, right? Just something to think about, because we saw this pipeline attack yesterday as well in Texas. We saw this chicken warehouse get caught on fire in Texas as well the day before that, right? Big things are going on, and our border is wide open, and we are potentially allowing these military units to enter our country. And we've even had these warnings from top, former, and current FBI officials, right? So something to think about, something to look at when major critical infrastructure goes offline like this, right? And we also had a major explosion at a BP refinery in Louisiana just a few months ago, and the entire refinery has been offline for months for repairs, right? It's constant. There's critical infrastructure going offline inside of our country all the time. There's fires, and it could potentially be linked to our open border and this national security threat, right? We also have another attack on our critical infrastructure and our energy, and this is coming from the federal government, right? The Texas Land Commissioner said, quote, Biden's ban on liquid natural gas will do nothing more than put our economy, job availability, and national security at risk, right? Because there was a major ban on LNG exports going out of Texas and Louisiana, out of the South, and a stop on new projects that they are already funding, and they're already building out these major ports for LNG exports around the world, right? So it's true. It's going to affect the economy. It's going to affect people's jobs, and it's a national security threat as well, because it's going to cripple the LNG sector in Texas and in Oklahoma, right? And these southern states, it's going to cripple their growth, right? They have all these plans. They've already sunk a bunch of money into these projects, and they were expecting growth and expansion, and now all that's been taken offline and shut down, right? So this could have major long-term ramifications for liquid natural gas, and this could cause certain pipelines to cut back production and potentially even go offline in the long term, right? We also have a major attack that has just happened on a U.S. military base, all right? We are still getting details on this, okay? So it's a little fuzzy right now, but the initial reports are of a drone that was launched by Iranian proxies, and it striked the U.S. military base at Al Omar oil field in Syria. All right, so that's the initial reports. We're not sure if there's any casualties or any events related to that. All right, but that is what is being reported today. This is on top of the attack on a U.S. military base just a few days ago, and we lost a few U.S. service members very tragically, right? And there were also dozens and dozens of brain injuries and spinal injuries being reported as well. And even people from the Arizona National Guard troops were injured in this attack that happened in Jordan a few days ago. All right, so we could have another situation, similar situation happening in Syria right now as well. And this also comes as the Pentagon is now authorized for strikes on Iranian personnel and facilities. Okay, that is what has just been approved, has just come out. The Pentagon says they are ready to strike Iranian personnel and facilities inside of Syria and Iraq. All right, so that is what is going on right now internationally as well. And these things go hand in hand, right? When our border is wide open, we are not protected from things that happen internationally, all right? What happens overseas and around the world could make its way here to America and through our open border, and it already has, right? And these groups and these militants could be waiting to be activated at a moment's notice if they're given the signal. If something really pops off in this part of the world or in China, right, they could be given the signal to activate inside of our country. And really quick, check out this video, this screenshot from this video of this boat that just showed up in San Diego, California, right? So I reported on a similar situation a few days ago, but this is happening all the time. This is happening all the time. Boats are showing up on our shores. This happens in Florida, actually, sometimes as well. This happens down in the south and southern states too, right? But this is happening in California right now, right? You can see here it's a group of men getting off this boat that just came in to the beach, all right? It's at La Jolla Beach, and they just showed up. This guy was out here swimming in the water, surfing with his GoPro on, and these people just showed up. He said, quote, "I was taking photos of the waves on my GoPro in the water when all of a sudden I saw a boat flooring it right towards me at the beach. I moved slightly south and began recording. The boat then breached itself and 8 or so people ran off the boat. At that point, I was a bit worried they may be armed and kept a distance and continued to record." Right? And they just ran into this residential neighborhood, which has houses. You can see these houses in the background. These houses are worth millions of dollars sitting here on the beach. And it's just having people roll up and invade into our country with a mansion in the background and palm trees. Like, this is insane. This is insane. This is not a serious country anymore. How is this allowed to happen? How is this allowed to happen? Stuff like this has happened before in the past, but the rate that it's happening, the currency is extreme right now, right? It needs to stop. And California just allows this. California actually pays. These people could run into California like this and they will get 100% health care. They will get free health care in California. And that's something that they just passed recently, right? There's people, I'm sure some of you guys watching right now that struggle to get health care and get the health services that you need. But then people can show up, get this boat. How do they have money to just abandon this boat here? Who are these people? Where are they coming from? They just abandon these boats, right? And you can actually, certain states, certain areas, don't quote me on this, but certain places, there are some laws where you can claim these boats if they are left there for a prolonged period of time. If they're just abandoned on the shore for like a day or two, people can claim them and you can take the boat and get a free boat. All right, something that I was reading on, people saying that they've claimed these boats and they think potentially this is what they could have been used for. All right, so this is happening all day long in our country, every day. This is in San Diego with a mansion in the background, and it doesn't matter. Nobody's still going to stop it, so they're not going to stop it for your neighborhood either. All right, I'm sure 99.9% of you, maybe all of you, don't live in a mansion on the water in the background in San Diego. Okay, and if you do, that's cool. All right, it looks like a beautiful area, but the country is being destroyed. It's being destroyed, and California is being destroyed, and it's being allowed to happen. And if they're not going to protect these houses, they're not going to protect your house. All right, they're not going to protect our country. Nobody's going to be safe from this. So make sure you are getting ready. Make sure you are getting prepped. Please hit it up for me down there to help get this video out to more people so people are aware of what's going on in our country, right? It's happening. It's still going on. It's not over. The mainstream media is refusing to cover these topics, but it's still going on. It's still happening, and people need to know. All right, so hit that subscribe if you want to get notified too. I am posting every single day. If you hit that bell and click all, you will get notified right to your phone, and you will see a new chick every day as well. All right, so that's a bonus on top of seeing the news. You get to see a chick. We'll give a chick update every day as well. All right, so thank you guys so much. Make sure you're getting your prepper pantry going. Get your tanks filled up. Get your garden working on. Get a new flock of chickens. All right, get your eggs going. Get your skills up because it's coming. 2024 is going to be a big year. All right, so thank you guys, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.